think we're streaming now. I think it's going. What up? Yeah, actually, today's gonna be a kind of a low energy stream, I think. Uh, got a little bit of a headache. Took a nap and took some medicine. It hasn't really cleared up that much. I'm not even gonna drink alcohol tonight. It's just a Coke. Uh, yeah, so it's gonna be pretty low energy. But uh, I was thinking about postponing this stream, but I did that last week. Oh, actually, last week I just canceled it. I didn't postpone it, but yeah, it doesn't matter. Anyways, since I didn't have a stream last week, hey Fortuna, glad to have you here as always. Since I didn't have a game dev stream last week, I didn't really want to skip today. So, and I have a lot of progress to show in my game. I meant to create a list to make sure I talked about everything too, and I forgot to make that list. Oh well. Hopefully I talk about everything that I want to talk about. Oh, we can turn off all the... Since it's a game dev stream, we don't need that. And we don't need that, or that, or that. There we go. Just focus on the game. Okay. So, I got a lot of progress done these past 2 weeks. So the first thing that I just want to show off is because, of course, the past while I've been really focused on trying to complete my cave level, and I made some good progress there. Not as much as I'd like, but that's okay. So as I've mentioned before, the cave is basically split into like two different wings. I've called them ribbons, two different ribbons here. So we have the right ribbon and left ribbon over here. And now, thankfully, the whole right ribbon is at least complete as far as like puzzles and events and stuff go. I still need to put in the enemies. I haven't made any of the enemies. But you can go from the central room here, which is the one that we're looking at, and go in and out through the whole thing and be able to solve that. So, pretty happy with that. What do we want to look? We want to start. No, that's the left. Here we go. Here's the right. Yeah, so let's just... Actually, here's what we'll do. Is we'll just go ahead and start the player there. And we'll just launch the game. I have music enabled. No, we don't want to resume. We want to start a new game. Ooh, it's loud in my headphones. Alright, so, obviously this room's not complete, but, yeah, so you can go through here. Yeah, this is not the correct way. I am pretty happy though, because I have this like water drop effect here, which I'm kind of happy with how I accomplished that. So I'll show you how I did that. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward, but I'm kind of like how simple it is that I created that effect. So anyways, that's not the correct way. So the way that you would normally do this is you'd start with the lower area. So you'd have your area here, and the first part would obviously be to pick up the fish. And I've moved some stuff around. I still don't know if there's two areas where you can throw the fish. Like you have here, which you can throw the fish. And you also have over here, which you can also throw the fish. And I've kind of thought about maybe actually taking this lava and like breaking off this path. But actually, there's already a lot of chests in this room. Like, I would break off the path so that way over here maybe I could hide a chest or something. But there's actually already a lot of chests hidden in this room that it kind of feels like I'm just kind of like putting all of the treasures here and not anywhere else. So, yeah. So then you have the switch there. And there's nothing that you can do. So as I've mentioned several times before, like the whole gimmick on this side of the ribbon is that like you're setting up yourself, like you have to solve the puzzles without actually being able to interact with them. So like in here, so there needs to be enemies in this room. And I have not, like I said, I haven't implemented the enemies for this level yet, so so for right now, there's just these buttons here to take the place of the enemies. So you'd push the buttons, spawn some platforms. You would kill enemies to do that, normally. So you have the little mini game with the fish here. One of the things you can also notice too is that like the volume of the music lowers, and so I like the whole effect there. So it kind of like the music volume lowers and the camera zooms in, so you can get like a good view of the fish, of what you're doing. So there you go. That's how that's done. I miss this fish every time. Oh my god! Alright. So also, if I go back, you're gonna see what happens. So, there's now, if I go backwards, you would think that I'd be soft locked because you can't carry the fish between rooms. So it's not like if I go up here, I can grab a fish and take it with me. Not to mention, there's not any fish I can get in here. So you would think that would be soft lock because I wouldn't be able to go back, but I came up with a solution to that as well. So, and then if you're wondering about the sparkle, so this is my take a look around mechanic. So for some puzzle rooms, especially since like the player can't access up here, right? Like the whole point, like I said, the whole gimmick of this is that you interact with the puzzle elements down here, and you have to try to figure out how to set up the puzzle, so that way when you come through up above, you'll be able to just pass right through. So the look around mechanic is something that I had implemented to hopefully make that a little bit easier, so players can, you know, take some time, look around, get a sense of the level. Sorry, I'm not operating at 100% today. Oh, my head is killing me. So this is what I was talking about earlier, is that normally you'd get soft lock just because you needed a fish right here. But there's an anti-soft lock mechanic, which is just kind of brute force. All it does is just spawn a platform for you so you can get across. And it disappears. There we go, got the fish. So, I've shown this room off before, and Fortuna, you're probably pretty familiar with this room, because this is where I was trying to figure out the light mask thing. So this is the edge of what I've called the ribbon here. set up that platform for now, but we actually don't want to cross yet. We'd go over here, and as you can see, the platforms will disappear once you jump on them or jump across them. So basically it's a one-way trip, and the players can decide using the look around mechanic which path they would like to take. There's going to be enemies in here, so the point is that they can look at which path has more enemies and can either take, if they want to fight more, then they can take the path with more enemies if they want, or they can take the path with less enemies. And then you push the switch, and that'll get us the chest, which will get us the key for this level. Yep, there we are. And since the platforms are... So there's something interesting I did with these platforms, actually. I don't know, this is just like nerdy RPG Maker fucking information here, but so like you had all these platforms, right, that you jumped across through this level, and one thing I really hate in RPG Maker is all of the event litter that you wind up creating in each map. It really makes it annoying having to like assign movement rounds to stuff, or transfer events, or whatever, because what winds up happening is you have to scroll through these really long lists. It's so irritating. I hate that there's no search function that's like easily implemented. To save on the amount of event litter in the room, these platforms that spawn here are not individual events, but actually it's the same platforms that you jumped across. All it does is when you trigger that lever there, yeah, the lava's comfortable enough. When you trigger that lever here, all it does is take all those old platforms, turns them back on, because when you jump across them, of course, they turn off. Turns them back on, and then moves them in this line here. And of course, with all the effects that you saw going on, too. And that way, it saved on the amount of event litter in this room. And on a similar note, again, being mindful of soft locks, these platforms here, since you would jump on them, will disappear. But if you try... yeah, it won't let you, so you have to get the chest. Which all the information there is incorrect. I haven't changed any of it because I was lazy. I just didn't really want to do any of the text. So now that we have the key, we can go back over here. And I've showed this room off before. The puzzle, I don't think any of these puzzles are particularly complicated. So you just jump across, and then like the thing that for this one you just have to be mindful of is remembering to change the lever again. Last time I showed this off, I mentioned that there is like a soft lock prevention mechanic that goes on here as well, where if you had thrown your fish here, when you enter this region that I'm standing in now, after I think it's 14 seconds, it's an awkward amount of time, which I did deliberately because I wanted to feel just a little bit longer than necessary. This will spawn in, and this will just take you back to the beginning of the level, or this room, so that way you are not soft locked. And then down here, so these right here will let you jump back down, because like I said, these are all about interacting with the puzzle mechanics from the lower levels. So if you were incorrect in your puzzle here, like if you set the switches incorrectly, then you can jump back down, but of course you're not supposed to be able to get back up. So you'd have to, so the punishment is you have to go all the way back around again. As you can see, I did set up the switches correctly. So just grab the fish and jump across. And that'll bring us back to the start of the ribbon up here. And once again, there are these for jumping down in case you set up the puzzle incorrectly, but I think that would be really hard to do. Really what I can imagine happening is the possibility of just maybe someone forgetting to push the lever, which would be really unfortunate, but that could happen. So if they forget, then they'd have to jump down here. But it's actually not entire... Well, yeah, if there's no fish, then never mind. Because technically, you only lose... Oh my god. There we go. You only lose the fish whenever you try to exit the current map. So you can actually jump down here. Oops. And then you can just bring your fish over here and jump across that way. So that's always an option as well. There's something else I was going to say about that. I don't remember. Oh yeah, there's actually sort of there's a speedrunning trick that I'm aware of that I don't think I'm going to patch out. So the way the death system in my game works is, we talked about this in my game devs, or not game dev, in my whatever the previous stream was on Saturday. My death system is basically when you die, it brings you back to the town, and so if you wanted to quickly avoid the solving all those puzzles, is you could technically just die and go back to town, because the whole second half of that ribbon is all about just making it back to here. So if you wanted to skip that, you could just intentionally die and then just come back here and skip all of the puzzles if you want. But considering you'd lose money, and that's still not super fast because you have to walk from town to here, I don't care about patching it. If people want to use that as a speedrunning tactic, then they can. Anyways, so that's all of that's done. So, yeah, so that half is all done. Now I just got to do the left half, which so this room is probably not a big deal because I've already set up all of the events. I can just copy events from the right ribbon because all of that's already been solved. Just copy the events here, change some stuff around, and it'd basically work as is intended. However, there is the matter of two different things here. This room here has an interesting mechanic with the tanks where they cascade down. So instead of in the other ones, you turn on in the other ribbon, you turn on a switch to fill and drain a certain tank. So you'd fill this tank up. If you don't want that one, then it drains and another one fills up somewhere else. Well, this room kind of takes that idea, but instead you have some switches that will be here that are going to be locks for the tank. So basically, whenever you pull the lever to fill the tank, if you have not enabled the locks, then it'll fill the tank, but then immediately drain and cascade down to the next one. And if you haven't locked this one, then it'll fill and then drain immediately and cascade down to this one. And I've been trying to think about how that would look in my game, and I don't know. I'm kind of kind of procrastinating on it because I'm not sure how to implement that well. I have some, I don't know, I'll have to play with it whenever I get there, but yeah. And then the other thing that I need to implement is these black boxes here are meant to be a key item, which is what we're going to talk about today. Not specifically this key item, but another key item that I have. The other key item that I have is sort of the title of this more relaxed and brain not work stream that we're doing today. um, so anyways, this key item is a chisel and is meant to chisel rocks into becoming stairs. So you'd have to get the chisel from this room over here first, and then you can use the chisel to make this into a staircase so you can go down it and go across. Yeah. So I'm not sure how I want that to work either. Speaking of event litter, I could just have 6 events right here that make up the staircase and then just have something turn it on, put some visual effects on it, and call it good. But I don't know if I really want to have that much event litter, so I don't know. It's something else that I have to think about. I have some cool ideas for the particle effects that I think I could execute. But I don't know. I'll get there when I get there. So, this whole chisel thing, so the way that this chisel works is basically you can climb the rocks like a true adventurer. These youngs are so can't I'm guessing you mean can't climb. No, you can't climb the rocks. So, the key item, the chisel, originally, the way that my levels had been designed was that the key item for whatever level you were in was, well, kind of basically just that, a key, basically, with a nice coat of paint on it. But like keys in most games, the key would expend itself after you've used it. So you'd use that key to unlock a door, but then the key disappears, right? So these items were going to be consumable, but I reworked the way that I wanted the cave level to be done, and as a result, it also necessitated me to change the way that the chisel worked. And now the chisel is just a permanent item. Once you unlock the chisel, you can just use it anytime. It's not a key item. It doesn't just vanish after you use it. And I'm actually okay with that. In fact, I like that. I feel like that's a lot better than having to constantly have to search out another copy of that same item. I think it just feels better once you unlock that item. You just get to keep it for good. But that brought up a concern with my first level that I had completed, which is what we're talking about today. So my very first level that I completed, which is the Seas, it had used that method of where you would get a special item, a special key item, but it would be consumable. And basically you would have these logs here, and you would use a lightning rod to destroy the logs. But every time you destroy the log, now you have to find another copy of that lightning rod to be able to destroy another set of logs. And I think that's an okay puzzle mechanic. It's just that my level, this whole level, was really not well thought out around that mechanic. Like, I think you can use that, like, expendable puzzle solving resource. Like, the puzzle mechanic itself is about finding the resource, right? And I think a well-considered level about expendable resources can be interesting. The problem is that that was not this level. I didn't make this level well enough that really considered, that really took that into account. And so I really wanted to rework the way that it was done. And I'm actually so very happy about it. I think it's really fucking cool. So when I showed off the fish mechanic, it kind of occurred to me that I didn't really go in depth about, like, the programming behind it. I know, like, looking over code and stuff is not, like, the most interesting thing. Not to mention this is, like, RPG Maker's basic event code, which is not really code. It's just if statements. But still, I think since these are dev streams, it's kind of, and I know some people watch these streams and, like, take notes. So I think rather than just talking about how cool a mechanic is, I feel like I should actually show off how I did it. So before I actually even showed off, before I even show like how it works, let me just show it running in game. I've also done some sound work for it too. I hate doing sound design. I don't know why. Like, there's not a big difference between making music and making a sound, but I just really don't enjoy sound design that much. I always put it off, but I did a lot of sound work for this too. There's a bunch of effects for indicators and for just casting the effect and charging the effect. I haven't changed any of the text. All of this is the old text whenever you acquired it, so I need to change this. So there it was. Yeah, I just talked over it. Let me turn up the volume a little bit. So you have the lightning rod now, and now you will use R to recharge and E to expend. So you basically have a reload and a fire button. So reload. So you get a little bit of information there. It says how many charges it has. And then watch this. So it warns you that you have 5 charges. So if I try to do it again, so it prevents you from charging it anymore. Here's the catch too, because the tutorial's not there. The tutorial will definitely inform the player of this. It's not just something that you want to do all the time. Let's take a look at my health. You're getting shocked by lightning, so you are hurting yourself with each recharge. So every time you recharge, it hurts you. But then, you also have the expend. Right now, if I do it, no target. So it does nothing. Now, watch what happens. So this gray area over here, I've deliberately put this gray area here as this is going to be like your tutorial area. This is going to be like the first time players get to use this mechanic. So I've deliberately put this like gray path here to kind of indicate like this is a safe space to practice using this. So watch what happens. So we have our monster there, and when I enter his territory, he's going to want to try to pursue me. Since this is a tutorial area, he won't be able to actually get to me. So he'll stop right there. He can't actually reach me. But what I can do is if I step out, you'll see my character flash. Like that. So whenever my character flashes, that means I am safe to expend. I have a target now. And when I target them, now I hit them and now they are stunned. Now they will move slower. So what this does is this allows players to bypass enemy encounters if they want. I mean, they already could since they're on the field, but sometimes they will the enemy encounters will pursue pretty aggressively, so it might be difficult to avoid the encounters. So using this mechanic, it allows players to more easily avoid fights. But also, that was just like a bonus feature added into the mechanic. The whole reason why I redid this was because of these logs here, right? So this pretty much works the same as before, where once you... basically it just removes the log. So I will step into a region that's here. You'll see my character flashes. And it destroys it. There we go. So, there's another enemy here, so I can show you. Here's a nice thing, is you can cast it while moving too. Just like that. So, it's very quick. It's very quick to cast. Originally, I wasn't too sure if I wanted the player to be like rooted in place. I kind of figured like that's the trade-off. Like if you're going to cast this, you got to make sure that there's enough space between you and the enemy to do it. I was going to root them in place. But I actually forgot to implement like a weight on the player. And when I tested it without the weight on the player, I just kind of liked how snappy it was. I liked that you could just move. It just feels good to execute. And I think the punishment is that recharging costs you health, which actually makes this quite a... like, it naturally discourages, like, low-level players from abusing it too much, which means naturally, hopefully, those players will have more fights because they're discouraged from using it because they're going to have less health. But then as they level up more and more, not only are they further into the game, they may be bored of fights at that point, or they may not be as interested. And naturally, because they're further into the game, they have more health because they're a higher level, and therefore they can, you know, use this mechanic more often. So yeah, I think it's really cool. The little spark that appears too, that informs you. So the spark that informs you that there's a target, because, like, you know, right there, no target, came about because I was trying to, like, always execute, like, trying to get it just right on the enemy, but I could never, like, determine where's their zone, even though I'm the one who implemented the zone into the game. Like, I kind of generally know this enemy's square, but I don't know exactly where it is, so I'd always wind up pushing it too early. So I implemented the little spark mechanic so that way it's more informative to the players. Hopefully it would, hopefully people will understand what it means and know that, hey, I can use it. So, and also just a fun little bonus here. So you can go over here and do that. That's just for the hell of it. Yes, thunder. I think it's really fucking cool, man. I really love it. I spent a lot of time just, like, playing around with it. It's really kind of fun to do. It feels great to execute this. Oh. Hey, it's that same kind of freeze I got. I wonder if this has to do with OBS. Because I wonder what that's about. Because I thought this kind of crash was related to, let's check the log here. Looping. What is it looping? What is it talking about? Maybe it's my own shitty programming. Page or script is accessing at least one of navigator.user_agent. Yeah, I don't know. Weird. See, I thought that crash was originally related to the Ares weather plugin, but I've removed it. That's why right now there's no rain here, even though the background sound in this level is rain. Because there was a thunderstorm in this level, but I removed Ares weather plugin because I thought it was causing problems. But there was that crash again, so I don't know. I don't know. I'm just gonna ignore it for now. So, what was supposed to happen here is this tree should be knocked down. I think it's because I loaded the save and I had made changes to how this tree works. So I'd have to start a new game and make it to this point. But doesn't matter. I was just going to show off the mechanic a little bit more. Although I guess really I've kind of established the point that, yeah, you get the little shock, a little static effect. Destroy stuff with it. And you can stun enemies with it. That's pretty much the gist of it. There's not a lot of interactions. I will mention, though, there is a hidden secret interaction when recharging. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. This enemy's not been set up properly. Okay. So, let me explain how this mechanic works. So, I'm using Yawnfly's common event. Button common event, so that's how I'm able to map it to R and E. So most of this, well, this uses actually a lot of events to accomplish it. So we have 3 common events that are all tied to this mechanic. So we have the recharge and expend, obviously, and then there's just a reset, and this is really just to reset what enemies have been stunned and what enemies or what objects have been destroyed by the lightning. Because here's the one thing too. So previously, with how the lightning rods worked as just like an expendable resource that you'd have to find again, is in that case, the whatever you destroyed, it at least would stay gone permanently. But I figured if I'm giving the player an unlimited number of uses with this resource, then I would actually like it so that way anything that you destroy will just respawn whenever you change map. And I was planning on actually adding a new map to this level. So like the seas are complete. I have like the main route. Everything's done. But I thought about changing, like making the player need to go like, so you have this road here that goes to the left. I was thinking about moving this torch, kind of deleting stuff here, and making a road that goes north for like a little puzzle room using this mechanic before the player would be able to go back this way. But I kind of decided against it just because this whole level is really kind of seems to be combat focused. And so, like, the mechanic itself is kind of just like a very aggressive mechanic. It's not really about it's not about thoughtful solutions. It's just about blowing shit up. So I just kind of felt like it really kind of destroys the pacing of this level. I just want to lean into this just being like a more combat-focused level. So I just scrapped the idea of doing another map and just kept the game the way that it is. Not to mention, I don't know if I really want to put that much more work into this level since it's already complete. I don't mind doing more work just to like kind of polish things up like with the lightning rod, but adding extra maps is just kind of unnecessary. So anyways, let's go back to looking at the logic. So the recharge mechanic here, so it checks for a lot of different things. Obviously, if the player has the lightning rod itself. It's kind of funny that actually the lightning rod item itself is totally irrelevant to how this mechanic works. Like, having the item in your inventory means nothing. It is just there for, you know, continuity. You know, you picked up the item here, you have it. But actually, all of this is done off of switches. So whenever you open that chest here, that just turns on a switch that says, hey, the player has the lightning rod now. And so that's obviously the first thing, is just checking whether the player has a lightning rod or not. Then there's also obviously if the player is inside. I don't want the player to be able to cast lightning bolts when they're inside someone's house. So next thing it checks is whether they're inside or outside. There's another, I didn't show this off. There's another hidden mechanic. I wouldn't call it hidden. There's another mechanic to this, which is in dark rooms, if it's a dark room, then it will like lighten the room up if you use it. So you can use it as like a flashlight. So yeah, it checks that. Then once everything is met, then it will, reduce the player's health. Here's the random variable. Because I mentioned there's a hidden mechanic that's been stuck into the recharge. And I had this, so this was originally a 1 in 100 chance of happening, but I actually, just through my testing, would have the event happen a little bit too frequently for my taste. No, I think it was a 1 in 50. Yeah, I think it was a 1 in 50 chance. So I changed it to 1 in 150 chance that this random event happens, just for fun, just because. Then we have the animation, changes the player's character. It's all fairly typical stuff. Like, I don't think any of this is really complicated. Here, it just checks if the player has enough charges to be able to execute it. So, this is the charging mechanic, and this will add 1 charge. So again, this is all controlled through variables. It really has nothing to do with the actual item in the player's inventory. It's between switches and variables that control all of this. So there's just a variable to hold the number of charges. And then here's the pop-up message here. And then, of course, the warning when you're at 5. So, I don't think anything is too surprising about this. This all seems fairly straightforward. So the expend part is where things kind of get a little bit difficult. So in order to make this work, this kind of is very similar to my fish mechanic, where I had to use a lot of regions to detect where the player is and if they can do something. So once again, we need to check to make sure that the player has the rod. And if the player is inside, then they will just say, I can't do that. And we'll just stop. Because like I said, we don't want to throw lightning bolts in someone's house. We're going to set the house on fire. We don't want that. Again, fairly standard stuff. If the lightning rod has more than 0 charges, then it will reduce the charge by 1. Show the animation. And then here, so it checks region ID. So the regions are going to be between 15 and 60. And if the player meets that requirement, then we'll just jump straight to the lightning strike label here, where basically now, you'll also see I go crazy with the comments in here. So the comments will probably also give you a pretty clear idea of what's going on. I'm sure the heroine must love big fires. Actually, there's a few fires set in this game, so it would kind of make sense. We light fish on fire, we light trees on fire, so why not some NPC's house? I've gotten crazy with the comments. This is not really for you, this is really for me, and that's because I had taken a short break from my game. And surprisingly, it was only like a 3-day break. And I came back and I had no fucking clue what was going on. And I know this. My own, all the programming courses I had taken, and I'd even preached this to, a couple of people on the RPG Maker forums about commenting your shit, not for other people, but for your own sake. Because if you take a break and you come back, you gotta know what the fuck shit's doing. So I've commented the hell out of my thing here. So anyways, so the first part is about stunning a mob. So my mobs have I had to restructure this too. So this is another thing that took a while. My mobs wander in a region, and in order to make those like detection regions work properly without bugging out other mobs on the same map, each one gets their own dedicated region. And therefore, right now we're checking if the player is within one of those mob regions, which I think I can have up to, I think 16 to 21, so I think it's up to 5 possible mobs on a single map. I could always expand that, but I'd prefer not to. But so anyways, so even though this does check up to region 25, that's just a buffer in case I do want to expand it. It really only works up to 21. And what happens is whenever you press the key and you're within the mob's region, it spawns an event, which we'll look at in a minute. So most of this is just going to be from just your pretty, pretty straightforward kind of like programming stuff, or RPG Maker eventing stuff to using spawning events. So down here, so yeah, at the end of each of these, it'll jump to the wrap up, which we'll get to in a minute. But if the player doesn't meet any of these, that means we're not trying to target a mob, but we're trying to target an obstacle. And those obstacles are assigned to 50, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, and 57. And once again, it's just like the mobs. You could kind of think of like the obstacles to destroy as static mobs. They're like monsters that just don't move at all. So I need all the same information, and they work basically the same way. If I want to expand the number of obstacles, I can if I need to, but I felt from 51 to 57 is a good enough number. I think that is 7, so that's 7. That's 7 obstacles I can have on a single map. Otherwise, if none of those criteria are met, then there's the failed to execute. So originally, the failed to execute section actually had the players say some dialogue, but I found that kind of annoying, especially if you got a little bit too preemptive with your button press. Like I was talking about before, is I kind of know like the rough region of where mobs are, but I don't know exactly where it is, so sometimes I'd press it too early. And so it got really annoying if you accidentally pressed it too early, and you'd get a dialogue pop-up every time that happened. So I changed it to just a little pop-up message saying no target instead. And then here's the wrap-up. So the wrap-up is just the same thing as before, except in reverse. The same thing as the recharge one, where it would just have a little pop-up message saying how many charges that you have. So, yep, that's how that works. And now we can look at the spawned event. So here's my event spawn map. So there's the fish. And here are lightning targets. There's probably a much cleaner way to do this. I thought about this for a long time because I didn't want to have to create a bunch of different events to spawn. It would be nice if the event just knew what region I was in and would strike the correct mob. But what I thought about that is that it's kind of redundant. So like, if I had just a single event that would spawn, it would need that single event that spawned needs to detect what region the monster is, what region the monster or obstacle is in. But we have already done that, right? We check that in the expand. So it just felt redundant to have to check that same information again. So rather than having to redundantly repeat the same functions, I just felt like it's a little bit messier having a bunch of events, different events that spawn, but at least this way, it's not checking redundant information. It already knows what region it's meant for. So yeah, and basically what these events do is this is really annoying, actually. This is something, I guess, just really frustrating with RPG makers that, you can set bubbles the little bubbles above people's heads. You can assign bubbles. You can assign movement routes to basically any event, and you can use variables to assign that information. But God forbid you can't use variables to assign an animation to an event. That's annoying. So that's why another reason why it's like this is all just for the animation. The event that's spawning is just for the animation itself, where it's going to check. Like, for example, this one is for region ID 51. So this is going to be an obstacle. You can see it's labeled obstacle 51. So this is just checking obstacle 51's X and Y position. Then it's going to play the lightning strike animation. The wait is just because there's like a short amount of time that the lightning is coming down. And I didn't want the log to disappear immediately. So the wait 22 frames is just to make sure that the lightning is exploding. So while the explosion is happening, it masks the log just getting turned off, which happens there. And then the event's gone. So that's what happens whenever it spawns the event. So yeah, that's how that works. And it's the same thing for the mobs as well. I don't know if this is necessary. I wanted to make sure, because sometimes the mobs are moving pretty fast on the map, and so I wanted to make sure that the lightning bolt tracked them as they moved. And so I have the wait 3 frames, check where the monster is, and move the event there. Wait 3 frames, check again, wait 3 frames, check again, so on and so forth. To try to make sure that the lightning tracks the monster as the animation is happening. But actually, I don't think this works. And I don't know why that is, but it just doesn't seem to work. So it's probably not necessary that I do it like this, but oh well. Effectively, though, the mob events and the obstacle events function exactly the same. So that's just for like casting and using the lightning. But the little spark effect that happens whenever you enter a region, that's an entirely different thing that we need to go back to this map. So I have this is the strike indicator here. And so this right here is a separate parallel event that's just constantly checking what region the player is in. And of course, it's enabled by the player having the lightning rod and at least have one charge in it. If it doesn't have any charge, then there's no little spark that plays on the player. So I was pretty happy with how this worked. So this went through a couple of different iterations. So originally, the way that this worked was that whenever the player entered the correct region, anywhere between 16 and 57, a little spark would play. And then I just set a wait time before it played the animation again. So I think it waited like 10 seconds before it would play it again. So the little spark would play, then it'd wait 10 seconds, and then the spark would play. Because the problem with parallel events, of course, is without the wait time, it would constantly just play the spark event. And at the speed at which it would calculate this event, it would basically be only the first frame of the spark event, and that was it. So obviously I needed the wait time there. But my problem is like, if we look at regions, so like we have region 17 here and 51 here, or even actually, here's a better example. This is even better. We have 19 here and 52 here. And what would happen is that the player would enter region 19, the spark would fire, and then it has a 10-second cooldown before it fires again. Well, the player can probably get from 19 to 52 before the 10 seconds is up, which means they wouldn't see that spark when they got here. So basically, they lost out on information because of that wait time. And so I had to change how this works. And I'm pretty happy with how this works now. So it basically what it does is that constantly the player's region is being checked, because obviously that's important for a lot of different things. The mobs move based on where the player is. the the whole lightning thing that we've just talked about is dependent on what region the player is in. So the player's region is constantly being checked. So using just these player regions, just dependent on the player region, is not very good because that variable is very dynamic. It's constantly changing depending on where the player is. So I had to come up with a new variable, which is what I called the player region ID preserved. So basically what happens is whenever the player enters this region, it saves that region to a new variable. And that variable is not dynamic. It's going to stay static like that until it gets saved again. And as long as here you can see, as long as the player's region ID is the same as the preserved region ID, it will just stay in this loop forever, just waiting, checking every second. Did they change? Nope. Okay. Check another second. Did they change? Nope. Okay. Wait another second. And then if they did change, if the player region ID is not the same as the preserved region ID, then the loop will break and it can trigger this. It can repeat this whole process again, where now it will save a new preserved region ID. So yeah, I was pretty happy with how this one worked. I thought this was pretty good. And also it gives me all sorts of like new creative ideas of, oh, what can I do with this preserved region ID? Now there's all sorts of stuff I can do with that. So that's how the whole spark mechanic works. And basically all it does is just show the animation. All of this is just about showing the little spark animation. And actually, so what this whole process created was, what I wound up having to do is have to redo a lot of work. I'm happy with it because I feel like the game is running so much smoother. So originally I had to kind of change how these mobs worked. So here's my mobs logic. So once again, we're constantly checking player region ID and set up their behavior based on where the player is. So if the player is within region 17, then the mob will pursue the player. Both of these movement routes are for pursuit. You can see move towards player there. But if the player used the stun, then the stun gets turned on, so that changes the speed here. If there was no stun, then they move a little bit faster. So yeah, so that's how that works. And then, of course, if the X and Y position are the same, then it starts a fight. You know, that's pretty standard stuff. And then, of course, if the player is not within the mob's region, then they just wander around randomly. Now, all of this is, I think, pretty normal for a wandering monster. I think a lot of people probably would have gotten this far. Anyone who's skilled at RPG Maker. I just want to say that this is not how it was. I had to partly, somewhat redo this. Most of this is all the same, actually. Most of this has been unchanged. But what I had been doing before is each mob on the map was checking the player's X and Y position to set the player's region ID. So before, like you can see here, we have mob X, mob Y. Probably would have created a plugin. Man, you have no fucking idea. This, both, like, there's so much thought that's had to go into this. So you can see here the mobs checking X position and Y position, and then setting X and Y to check what region ID they're in. This same information was parodied, but with player above this, and that was for each mob. And there's 3 mobs on this map. So we have the mob here, we have the mob here, and we have the mob here. And I think that's really inefficient. You basically have 3 mobs that are all doing the exact same thing, all assigning the same stuff. And so what I did is I wound up moving that variable off of them. So I moved it to my do once controller. So I don't know. I'm sure like other people might call it something different. And do once may not be like the appropriate term. It's just like the first thing that comes to mind because like some of my first introductions to programming or game scripting was with Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, when I was making mods for Oblivion. And it was pretty common practice amongst mod developers to create a do once variable. And I don't know, this is just the first thing that came to mind is basically originally how my do once controller worked is it was exactly that. Whenever it loaded the map, it would do some stuff once and then erase itself. So it just, like set variables or whatever needed to be done, and then just get out of the way. I have reworked how all of my do once controllers work on every single fucking map. And this is all because of I needed to change. Okay, so this is a disaster. So this is because I wanted to get the player's X and Y information so that way only one event is checking that information instead of having every single monster checking that information. So, the easy idea here was instead of erasing the event instead of erasing the do once controller at the end, I just created a loop. So it runs through all of this stuff and then just gets stuck into a loop here. And that loop is just constantly checking the player's region ID, getting the player location for the map. That's fine, but all of my do once controllers were a fucking disaster. So I wanted to reorganize the way that my do once controllers work. So the way that this is you can effectively think of this as a loading screen, okay? So the way that my map transitions work is I use the tint screen because the fade out in like the fade, what is it fucking called in RPG Maker? Yeah, fade out screen. Okay, so the fade out screen thing it's annoyingly limited. It's like 30 frames, I think. Maybe it might be 60 frames. Either way, it's a fairly short fade out, and you get no control over that. So I've resorted to using the tint screen instead because you get a lot more control over the fade out using tint screen. The way this originally worked was that the tint screen here, which would fade in the screen, was at the top of all of this. And so basically what would happen is that it would fade in the screen, the players would feel like they have control, but the do once controller still has a bunch of other stuff that it needs to run through. And what would happen is I feel like I would get these very minor hitches, and it'd be very brief, but whenever I'd load a map, I'd get very minor like frame hitches. Like, I'd run stably at 150 frames, but then suddenly I'd get like some weird hitches where it dropped down to 144 for a bit, which just doesn't feel very good. And so I completely reorganized how my do once controllers work. Also commented the hell out of them, as you can see. So, first of all, I stopped the player's movement totally. So the player is not going to be able to move. It's probably not a big deal. This should happen, super fast. But just in case, I have them wait for a very, very long time. And then it runs through all of these processes. And just in case if there's any weirdness happening, there's a 10-frame wait. And then we release the player and fade in the screen. And it could just be placebo. I could be completely wrong about this. But I feel like after completely restructuring every single fucking do once controller in my game, that things are going much smoother when I load a map. So yeah, that was something else I spent a lot of time working on this week. And that's all kind of because of this lightning rod thing. It was because I wanted to move the mobs from... I didn't want the mobs to constantly check the player's region IDs, so I wanted to move that to the do once controller, and then because I moved it to the do once controller, I had to reformat the whole do once... Anyways, yeah, I just went over that whole thing. And this gets complicated because not all of my do once controllers are as simple as this. This one's fairly simple because there's not a lot going on in this map. But like the seas, which is a huge problem because it is an absolutely massive fucking map, there is a lot that is going on. Yeah. It took me a while to just figure out what the fuck is going on. So, like, you can see there's 4 event pages here. Big map syndrome. No. So that... No, that was the idea. That was the, like... Okay. Hang on, map. Do once controller. Alright. Here's the thing. So, I know you kind of, like, joined... Like, when you found my channel was... Probably, it was well after I had finished the Seas. The Seas I was really excited about. Like, I had an idea for all 3 levels I wanted for my game, but the Seas I was particularly excited about because I thought it was a pretty cool idea, where basically it's kind of like a Zelda dungeon. But the main gimmick here is that the dungeon that you explore is an ocean that you sail around. It's also a joke. The name of it is a joke. It's the vast seas. It's not a very good joke, but it's... Hang on, let's see if you can figure it out. Let me show you the names of the bosses. You have Plus and Sharp. And they're at the seas. C plus. It should be C++, but still C plus and C sharp. Ha! Get it? Okay. Anyway, sorry. Terrible fucking joke. Anyways, so and the vast seas. They're the vast seas. This is how fucking complicated it is to figure it out. Where do you go? What do you do? I don't know, cause it's the seas. So, anyways, so that's the idea here. So I knew this map was gonna be like really fucking large because that's the whole gimmick, is that it is a large map. That is the gimmick of this level. The other levels are not designed like that because, well, they don't need to be. Their gimmick is about small puzzle solving. So yeah, anyways. So anyways, back to the do once controller. So there's a lot of shit that happens, especially not only because it's a big map, but also because it's kind of the main room, I guess you could say, of the level. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be checked at different parts of the player's completion of this level. So like when I first enter, there's not a lot that needs to be done because there's an intro sequence. So this intro sequence, when they first join or first enter the map, kind of acts as the do once controller as well, because I mean there's no reason to run the do once controller and also run this event when the event itself can do everything that the do once controller is going to do. So the event itself kind of acts as a do once controller. As you can see, it loads all of the necessary stuff there before it goes into actually playing out the whole story, all the story stuff, whatever. And then, so this first page, there's not really a lot going on. Check the, player location. Like it goes into this loop here for the player location, and that's really all it needs to do. Now, whenever they come back, like if the player leaves the main area and comes back to this area, obviously that intro is not going to play out anymore. So now it needs to do a standard do once loading. There's more obstacles on this map, as you can see. Kind of like break up these obstacle XY stuff. You can see I commented in between them. It just makes it easier to read. Because there's another thing I really hate about RPG Maker, and it's like how, like they don't give a shit about like how well you can read stuff. Some of these events, first of all, I hate that I can't resize the fucking event screen. I'm stuck with this like tiny little box here. I can't like, I want to make it bigger so I can see further down. But anyways, yeah, to make this easier to fucking read, I've commented in between each one so I know like, oh, these are the, you know, ones that control. This is the X and Y for obstacle 55. This is the X and Y for obstacle 53. This is the X and Y of obstacle 53. Okay, that needs to be changed. Yes, right? Stuff like that. Like, the organizational tools built in the engine is one of, like, the biggest fucking thorns in my side about this engine. Reaper's not open. Like, most software that I use, like, if you open up a drop-down list of anything, it immediately allows you to filter just by typing. So, like, we'll just, because I don't want to just start hitting random keys. So, like, you hit a drop-down list, and, you know, you can assign names to your events. So, like, I use obstacle 51 or obstacle 52. So, I would feel like in any engine that's not fucking RPG Maker, if I want to tell, you know, obstacle 51 to move to a location, I would just move route, click the drop-down menu, and just type in obstacle, and then it would filter the list to everything just named obstacle. I find obstacle 51, click it. But instead, what you get is, let's create a movement route. This horrifying, unorganized nightmare. This is horrendous. This is what I'm talking about with event litter. I hate event litter because the more events I create, the more unwieldy this list becomes. And you can't filter that. It's so stupid. Why? Why RPG Maker? And what's even more annoying, organized by ID, which is so fucking irrelevant. It is so irrelevant because you don't have control over ID number. Like, there's ID up there. This one's ID 19. I can't change that. I can't move that up or down. Like, what if I want, like, for example, my do once controller is a, you know, it's a pretty important thing, although I probably wouldn't interact with it. Whatever, who cares? This is hypothetical anyways. You know, it's an important event, so maybe I'd want to put my do once controller at event ID number 1. But it's at 18, just because apparently it was the 18th event that I put in this map. I have to put names, like, I've started caring less about names. Yeah, that makes sense. I get that. I guess I could just use comments then, or notes. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually. I might have to start doing that. I would name things previously, because sometimes you'd get a stack of, you know, like, invisible events like this here, and I don't know what any of these are, so I'd have to click on it and be like, oh, that's the do once controller. Oh, that's Fiddle is Hurt. Oh, that's the weather controller. Oh, that's the intro event. Oh, that's the lightning strike indicator. Like, you know, like, I read the titles because I use them, but I guess I could either put a comment at the top just saying this is lightning strike indicator, or I could just put it in the notes. So I'll probably have to start doing that. It's not a bad idea. Yeah. Anyways. I did also actually reorganize this map. This probably doesn't mean much to you since you weren't there when I was building this map. Yeah, oh, you mean this thing up here that I've never used and have never found useful at all? This thing is so fucking useless. Oh, is it case sensitive? Nothing comes up. Did I name it something else? Nope, it's obstacle 52. Is it exact? Oh, it's exact. Oh, okay. Yeah. It's so useless. It's looking for exact name. And what can I do with this? Can I bring it up quickly? Can I bring up the event page? No. I can't bring up the event page from this. What's the purpose of this? I can't bring up the event page. I get to see where its position is. Cool. Wow. So great. Oh, it's there. Wow. Thanks for telling me that. Yeah. Seems pretty useless. So, anyways, the global search is more for switches and variables. Oh, wait. Find... Oh, this is different from this. Why is that? Oh, okay. And this one's not as... Oh, okay, so it's brought up that one. Oh. Find previous? Oh, okay, there we go. What? Wait. Why are there two different searches? What the fuck, RPG Maker? Event searcher. And, like, this one's totally useless. This one's a little bit more useful, I guess. Like, at least I can find it quickly, I guess. You have a map and a global search. Yeah, well, the map search sucks. That's what this is, right? Well implemented options are cool. No. We talked about this with the previous bad game stream that I did. I think the very first game that I played, Guilty Red, had a bunch of unnecessary options. Unnecessary options just convolutes things. Like, there's no reason to have a bunch of convoluted, confusing options that no one's going to use. They need to be useful options. Like this, because, like, this just makes things more frustrating, right? Because it's like you were halfway there. I don't even call this half. Because if I type in obstacle, nothing comes up, even though there's a bunch of events with that name. I have to type in exactly obstacle 51. And that just tells me the position. And there's absolutely nothing else I can do with this information. Oh, that's cool. Wait, so... Oh yeah, so you can just search through variables? What is this? You just want to, like... Yeah. So that just says what event uses that. I guess that could be useful in a pinch, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't found a use for any of that. So yep. Anyways. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, all right. I was like wondering what all these regions are for, but if I remember correctly in this room, the regions don't mean anything. They were just there to help me because it's kind of like a jumping puzzle. So the region I just use to identify the correct path. I don't think it actually serves any purpose other than just helping me know what the fuck is going on. Anyways, yeah. I don't know what else to say. Went over my lightning mechanic and went over my do once controllers, my loading screens, which have been improved, I think. Yep. I think that pretty much covers everything. Um, yeah. You can see I really brought out the region paintbrush in town. uh, yeah, I surprisingly got through all that information pretty quickly, actually. I don't know if that's just because my brain is pretty dead and I just forgot to clarify how stuff works, or if that's really it. Um, before, so last week, um, when I was gonna have a dev stream, I didn't. I canceled it. Um, but I actually, easy to say, everything went. Yeah, true that. I'm not feeling well enough to drink tonight, so um, yeah, sorry about that. Besides, I have a meeting with my friend tomorrow. He's actually the owner of a bar here in Japan. He's from Florida. He's another foreigner living here in Japan. Um, but he opened up his own bar here in Japan. And actually, I want to talk to him. So we're going to have a business meeting about what it's like opening a business here in Japan. And since it's a bar, we'll be talking business and probably getting drunk. So I think I'm going to be drinking plenty tomorrow. Yeah, last week I didn't have a lot to show off because I didn't even stream a game dev stream last week because I was out anyways. I didn't get home until probably 10 o'clock, which was way past. Well, this is an hour past when I normally stream, and I hadn't even like eaten dinner or anything yet. So by the time I'd actually be ready to stream, it was gonna be 11 or 12 o'clock, and that's pretty close to my bedtime. So yeah. But I didn't really have much to show off anyways because I wound up getting distracted with terrible side project that I regret starting. Talking about music. That I hate myself for starting that project. I don't know if you saw it, Fortuna. I made practically a fucking university's course. Fucking RPG Maker forms. And I hate myself for how long it is. And now it's a project that I feel like I need to finish. I haven't finished it yet. I'm taking a break from it because it took up so much time. I'm gonna have more time once my summer break is over. My work is actually probably like 60% actually doing work. No, sorry, 40% actually doing work, and 60% of the time sitting down doing literally nothing with zero expectations of me doing anything. So it's mostly just watching YouTube or whatever else. And so I figured once I go back to work, I'll work on that side project again because my piece of shit laptop is not good enough to run RPG Maker, surprisingly. That's how shitty it is. So it's not like I can do work on my game at work. So, yeah. One of the things I did want to do is, it's funny that I'd want to do this. So my game,
has some secrets in it. You know, I've already kind of mentioned earlier with the recharge mechanic. There's like a 1 in 150 chance that a random event will happen, just for fun. And I've stuffed secrets into a lot of different places of my game. And one of the big secrets that I've really enjoyed is that there's hidden music throughout my game. And most of the hidden music is not really, I feel like it, in my opinion, it's not super worth going out of your way to find, because it's bonus track stuff. It's stuff that I haven't put a lot of work into. Um, and so let me play the level music. Do I have it here? So for the C's, that's not the right one. It's here. The C's. There it is, vast C's. This is the background music. All right, we got that in our head. I think we've kind of understand that melody and that drum beat, right? So, a long time ago, I used to always love taking my songs. This is the world of MIDI. Is you can basically just take a song and just drop any new sort of sound onto the song that you've already written. And I used to love doing what I'd call the bit mix of my music, which was basically just taking the song and then just running it through some like chiptune kind of synthesizers. And that was going to be the bonus track, the hidden track on the C's, was just a bit mix version of the background music, which is here. Right. All right. So it sounds very similar because it's basically the same song, just using some chiptune kind of sounding synths. But I actually found it really grating. I found it really unpleasant to listen to. So this is very strange. I normally wouldn't just redo a song, but I decided I wanted to redo it and try to go for more of like a. Well, the original idea I had in my head was more of like an FM synthesizer, kind of like 16-bit kind of sound, which you'd hear like with the SNES or Game Boy Advance. I don't think I achieved that, but I'm still kind of happy with it. So I don't know. Since we kind of finished talking about everything that else I wanted to talk about, I don't know. Here's what I had started working on. I didn't put a lot of work into this just because, like I said, it's one of those bonus songs. It's a hidden song. It's not super, to confirm it's not nice to listen to. Yeah. So I think this is a little bit better. feels way more chilled out. I don't think I quite reached that FM synthesizer, SNES, Game Boy Advance kind of sound, but yeah. There's something about, so I'm using a triangle wave. Something about triangle waves that just kind of sound, oops, I didn't mean to restart it. There's something about triangle waves that just kind of sound, I'm using Xenology. I thought I was using, yeah, I'm using Xenology here, but it is so it is a triangle wave. Something about triangle waves that kind of remind me of like underwater, because it kind of has a more subdued kind of tone. So I think that worked pretty well since, you know, it's like seas, so we're thinking water and oceans and stuff like that. So yeah, it feels a little bit more like a kind of watery kind of thing. Also, by the way, there's something about just this whole melody as well that really kind of feels like rocking on the waves too. I don't know what it is, but I really like it. This one was using synth 1. Yeah, you can see what wave it's using. It's using a square wave and a triangle wave. So the end kind of gets interesting. I didn't show this when I played the preview a moment ago, but like in the main song, you have like these big strings come in kind of at the end. So the preview of the previous version gets really grating to listen to when all those strings come in. So here's the actual song. Let's skip to when the strings come in. So you have like this big chorus of strings kind of come in just right there at the end. And in the original bit mix version that I did, ooh, that was grating to listen to. So here's the thing, is translating that like big string sound into a pleasant tone is actually kind of tough. I played around with this a lot. It really only works well as strings in my opinion. But I kind of like combine two different types of synths here, which kind of makes sense because like the strings is, we have a violin and then we also have a cello. So in a sense, I mean, they're string-based instruments, but I guess they are two different instruments. So I kind of did the same thing with synths, except it's two different synth sounds entirely. So I kind of have like this whistle sound for the cello. It's not really supposed to be a cello. It's just something that's more pleasant than that grating harshness. And what did I do for the violins? I think it's still something somewhat harsh, but yeah, it's a saw. So it's still somewhat harsh, but hopefully a little bit more bearable. So now here's the new version of those strings. Let's go back a little bit. Yeah, it's probably not perfect,
I still, like I said, I still feel like it's kind of hard to translate like that big string section into something with synthesizers. But the one thing to keep in mind is it is kind of like a bonus hidden song. It's not really supposed to be like a knock your socks off kind of experience here. It's just like a small little reward for kind of poking around with my game and seeing what you can find. So yeah, I don't know. I might just have to deal with that, accept it as it is. So, yep. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, there's for the cave. You kind of heard it earlier because I mean we started off the stream, and I actually had the music turned on in my game. I normally have the music turned off, but since I was doing a lot of sound work with sound effects earlier, you could I had the sound on, and you could hear that. Um, so you could, when I had because I had the sound turned on, you could hear the background music for the cave, which once again it uses a lot of the like big strings. That's kind of like, I don't know, the thing here. Um, so it kind of does this build up. So like the intensity keeps climbing a little bit. Oh, first it kind of chills out. Sorry, I forgot about that. When it comes back in, then it kind of starts doing this climbing intensity. Yeah, I really like that one. So I'm kind of eager to work on the next level's music. I still haven't worked on the forest levels music because I try not to like I break my game down into like different parts, and I try to just focus on completing that part. So like I really don't want to get ahead of myself and start working on other parts of the game that I'm not currently working on, because right now I'm working on the cave, so I don't really want to start getting invested into working on the forest when I'm not even finished with the cave. But when it comes to music, I really don't have that kind of self-control because I already have like the I guess you could say level music for like the final area for just before the final boss, which I'm probably a long time away from actually getting to that. Music. I've been having fun with this soundtrack. It's my first time to actually do a soundtrack, but one of the things that I like a year ago, let's see, is it here? I was looking through. No, it's not here. I was looking for a snippet of music that I'd written earlier, so I've been going through a bunch of my old projects. The funny thing is that the theme for this game, like I basically recycle some of the same themes,
over and over again. If I can just... Oh, you know what? Here's what I'll do. I have the MIDI for it. We don't need to save it. I didn't really do anything. Theme demo MIDI. There we go. We'll just drop that in. Okay. And see, we'll just assign a piano to this. Where's contact? Where's contact? Where's my piano? That's the wrong contact. God damn it. Here's my piano. So, like, it's probably been over a year at this point that I wrote this theme. So, we'll just copy that because there's two parts to it. So we have this part, which is not playing. Why is it not playing? What the fuck? Come on. I think it's going to be the MIDI channel. Yeah, for some reason it's assigned to something else. Should be faster. I think it's 150. So like that's pretty much like there's a complementary theme to it, so but that's kind of the main body of it. So then we have this part and this part, which kind of harmonize with it. And so, which of course these are on different channels, so I gotta go back through and reassign the channels, god damn it. Channel, there we go. All right. There's a couple of ugly notes in there, I noticed, but this was like written like a year ago, and I had been sitting on this for a long time now. And when I finally started working on this project, my game currently, I utilized this theme, and basically the whole project is built around this theme. Like all the music is built around this theme, and that's the reason I bring this up is just because it makes music writing so much more economical, because I already have a strong melody right here, and it's basically as simple as taking that strong melody and seeing how I can alter it to fit whatever it is that I'm doing. I don't have to come up with something completely new, which has made writing music super fast. Also, I'm always excited to write new music. So that was all. That was just to say that I have some cool ideas for how I want the forest music to go, and I'm kind of really excited to work on that. I'm try to have self-control, like I said, and not start working on another level when I haven't even completed the current level that I'm working on. But I really want to work on some music. It's been a while since I've written a song, and it's just kind of, I gotta scratch that itch, you know? It's like, I got these ideas, I just want to do these ideas, so. Anyways, so I've somehow managed to, despite finished talking about everything I wanted to talk about, probably about 30 minutes ago, I still managed to squeeze another 30 minutes of bullshit out of this. I like talking about music, but yeah, I used to do, like a long time ago, I used to do streams of like making music too. But, you know, they never really perform very well. No one cares about watching someone make music. Unless you're really skilled. Like, if you can perform well, perform live well, I think it's interesting. But for computer musicians like myself who don't really perform their music live, but instead spend a lot of time in the very soulless realm of MIDI rolls here, it's not as much fun to watch. Yeah. I don't really do the music streams anymore, so I don't know. I always like talking about music, but I just don't really have anyone to talk to about it, so So I have a headache. It's killing me, and I've managed to make some sort of a stream today. This is going to be the last Wednesday stream, I think, at least for a while. But I will still have a stream this Saturday. I might be done with IGMC. I don't know. There's some other games that some folks want me to play that I would like to give a try to. They're not IGMC games. Let me bring up IGMC itch.io. Hopefully that brings it up. Yeah, okay. So let's see how much. Oops, no. No, stop trying to put it in Reaper. I'm not trying to put a web page in Reaper. Just there. Let's see. Still has 10 days left, so I guess I could do more IGMC this Saturday. But also there's some games that some folks want me to play that I do want to try. I don't know, Fortuna. You tell me. What do you think? Another IGMC stream this Saturday, or should I just play some other RPG Maker games? Submissions. I have a couple of replies here from Dead Paper. Let's see, what did the dev of Dead Paper say? As I prefer. Oh, come on, I'm asking you for an opinion. I don't have a preference here. You fucking tell me. Let's see, this is what the dev of Dead Paper said. He said, "Cool, man, thanks for the feedback. It is janky RPG Maker goodness, and everyone knows it. Next time I try this, I'll try to use a better method than the grid-based stuff." Yeah. And Phoenix Crystal. This game was not made with MV3D. This was made with the Rose engine, my own from scratch 3D render. Oh, that's pretty cool. Other than that, thanks for playing the game. It was rushed for the most part, but my only real goal was to advertise my 3D renderer. Edit, I just watched your video. It was really constructive. I really appreciate the feedback. If I continue this project, I'll definitely take what you said into consideration. Thanks, man. Good stuff. So, Phoenix Crystal was the other one that I thought was MV3D, but apparently is not MV3D. This one here. So, anyways, well, since you don't have an opinion for me, I guess I'll figure it out. I don't know, but my brain is killing me, so I think I'm gonna call it a night. So thanks for joining as always, Fortuna. Always glad to have you here. And I don't know, do the usual thing. Check the links in the description. And like, comment, subscribe. The YouTube stuff. And I guess I'll do another game stream this Saturday. And that'll be the last one for, I don't know, for a while. Yeah, because I'll go back to my like every other week. So like one Saturday will be a game dev stream, and then one Saturday will be a gameplay stream. I also had another idea for a stream. Oh, I should have asked you about that. Well, of course, then again, you didn't give me a fucking opinion here, so I don't know if you'd have an opinion about this. But maybe, most people don't make it through my whole game dev streams, according to my YouTube analytics. So I doubt anyone will be able to answer this question if they're watching the archive. But if you are, and Fortuna, if you want to give me input, one thing I did notice in the analytics of my previous IGMC streams was that people seem to have a lot of interest in my discussions around game mechanics. And I've talked about, in a community post, I talked about wanting to not make my channel only RPG Maker, but also like an appreciation for games, because I don't think all of us RPG Maker devs should be so insular. We should, try to appreciate games as a whole, not just RPG Maker games. So, obviously doing the Unity stuff, checking out Unity stuff, which I still want to do, but I know people are not going to enjoy that quite so much because, I don't know, you guys are fucking assholes. Don't want to give other engines a chance. An idea of getting around that was perhaps playing a more familiar, like not an indie game. It could, well, I guess it could be an indie game, but you know, something more popular, something more commercial, and kind of just discussing about why those mechanics work, or just talking about them. It also gives me a chance to talk about Blue Reflections, which is a game I always want to try to talk about because this poor game, I love it so much, but it's such a B tier game. Like, the number of sales it gets, unfortunately, I think is very accurate for its quality. But that's unfortunate because I would love to see more Blue Reflections. And it gives me a chance to talk about Blue Reflections, which you can see here. I have both of them. This one I even got all the achievements, and I would have gotten all the achievements in this one too, except devs fucking locked stupid fucking achievements that you can't go back and get, and I played through the game twice. I played through it twice so I could get all the achievements and still missed one of the fucking things to get the it sucks. Anyways, but yeah, so I figured like we could have one stream that's my dev streams because I want to talk about my game, and then we can have one stream that is playing RPG Maker games, and I may throw a Unity game in there, and everyone will be angry at me. Or it doesn't have to be Unity, but another Engines game. And then maybe once in a while I can also do a stream where we talk about like the game mechanics from like a big game. I was thinking about that. The question is do you think that would be interesting? Or not just to you, Fortuna, since you don't seem to have an opinion on things. But for anyone else who has managed to watch this far into my stream, if you have an opinion, let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in that. So yeah, that's the idea. That's maybe the plan. We'll see if I execute on that or not. It also involves having to play some of these games again just for the sake of a stream, which doesn't sound very appealing, but if there's interest... And I get to talk about Blue Reflections. All right, I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, yep. As I've been trying to say for like 10 minutes now, I'm wrapping up the stream. I have to watch the replay to give you a reply. Watch the replay. All right, well, that's fine. You give me more watch time. If you watch my stream twice, then cool. More watch time means more success for my channel. So sure, yeah, do that, please. Watch the whole stream again. I don't know why you would, but just do it. And, you know, of course, you missed out on 3 minutes. Okay, well, there you go. Watch the whole stream again so you can just watch those 3 minutes. And don't forget to do the other things that YouTube really likes, such as, you know, liking and commenting and subscribing. All of those things improve my channel's performance. So when you do that, this channel succeeds more. So, anyways, yep, I'm wrapping up now, finally, for sure, for real. So, as usual, Fortuna, thanks for coming and stopping by. Always glad to have you here. And anyone who watches the archive, thanks for watching the archive. Do the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and check all of the links in the description for my book, music, game. And I've added RPG Architect down there because I sure as hell don't have money to support them, but maybe you have money to support them. And that's about it. Thanks very much. Bye.